Hey everybody, welcome to the Bizarre and Unknown. I'm your host, D.D. Testerman, author, veteran. Uh, I am learning this live stream, so I'm doing my first recording on it, so we'll see how it goes. So I want to do part one of Truth Behind Christmas, and like I said in my little short clips, this is not about taking away from the birth of Jesus Christ. It is to show you how um, the church had integrated paganism into it, and the corporation using it to benefit their money. So, with that being said, we're going to start off with Santa Claus, and something I found here that's kind of interesting. You know, Odin, one of the major gods in Norse paganism, shares many physical characteristics with the image of Santa Claus. The winter solstice, or the Yule, was the time when Odin led his hunting party, known as the Wild Hunt, in the sky with his eight-legged horse Sleipnir. The 13th century poetic Edda said the mythical horse could leap great distances, a trait reindeer possessed. Children would leave their boots by the chimney filled with carrots and hay to feed Sleipnir. And legend has it that whenever Odin flew by, he would leave gifts by their boots. After Christianity took hold, this practice of gift giving was later adopted in relation to St. Nicholas. Children would leave their shoes on the windowsill or bedroom door for the saint to reward them with nuts, fruits, or sweets. With all this symbolic and physical traits, it's very likely that the tales of Odin inspired many of the characters we associate with our stories of Santa. So, I mean, I find that interesting because there's paganism is, I hate that term, the old gods, pre Christianity is riddled throughout um, Christmas, throughout a lot of actually Christian holidays. We're just focusing on this one. Sorry, I've got a deal in my throat here. I'm trying to get it to go away. So, I mean, we can see where Odin plays into um, Christmas and as in Santa Claus. Let's continue on here. Another one is Siberian shamanism. The classic red and white color schemes of Santa possibly derive from a much older Slavic deity known as Father Winter. This red and white color scheme was chosen because its colors match a historically significant hallucinogenic mushroom known as Adminta muscura. You have to forgive me on words. I'm not good at them. These mushrooms played a large role in Siberian village life, especially during the winter solstice festivities. During midwinter, the local shaman would collect enough mushrooms for everyone in the community. They would collect them in a large sack and deliver them to each house in the village. And in Siberia, the snow would be really high at midwinter, making it unlikely the shaman would enter through the door. Instead, the shaman would probably climb down through the smoke hole of the hut, and this may be the origin of the concept of Santa entering through the chimney. The villagers would put mushrooms in a sock and then hang them on by the fireplace so that they would dry out. After they were dried, the family would consume the mushroom on the winter solstice, which would induce an altered state. This specific mushroom has also grown beneath pine trees, the very same trees we decorate with today with Christmas and Yule. These mushrooms are also regularly consumed by reindeer in Siberia. So many reindeer at this time, or so many reindeer at this time of the year are flying high, if you get the idea. Still today, Siberian shamans wear red and white in a pattern reminiscing of the Adminta muscura mushroom. Perhaps this red and white color schemes associated with Siberian shamanism and the Slavic deity Father Winter inspired the classic fur-trimmed outfit of Santa. It seems that the jolly old Santa stories we grow up with, in fact, tie back to a way of our uh, pagan roots. Indeed, much of the modern Christmases has pagan origins, and I really enjoy peeling back the layers of history to uncover pagan tales by the holidays and holiday cheers. So I found this here. It's on Arcane Academy or Alchemy. Um, it was a it fit well pretty good, or fit pretty well in with what we're doing. So that's why I kind of wanted to read a little bit on that. Some other stuff I found here on Santa Claus is Santa Claus, otherwise known as St. Nicholas or Kris Kringle, has a long history steeped in Christmas traditions. Today, he is thought of mainly as a jolly man in red who brings to good girls and boys on Christmas Eve. But his story stretches all the way back to the third century when St. Nicholas walked on the earth and became the patron saint of children. So this is where we're going to start diving more into how St. Nicholas became Kris Kringle, became Santa Claus, and how the first part here tied in with this part here because we all, I mean, and me too. I grew up thinking they're completely different. I just realized later on in life what actually inspired and how they became who they are. And like my Grogu cup, yeah, I'm a little bit of a Star Wars nerd. So here we talk about St. Nicholas. The legend of Santa Claus can be tracked back hundreds of years to a monk named St. Nicholas. It is believed that Nicholas was born sometime around 280 AD in Hatura near Myra in modern day Turkey. So I mean he's from another place, um, not what we grew up. I mean I always grew up thinking he came from Germany. Um, he was admired by his piety and his kindness. St. Nicholas became the subject of many legends. It is said that he gave away all his inheritance, wealth, and inheritance. Sorry about that. Inherited wealth, and traveled the countryside helping the poor and the sick. One of the best known St. Nicholas stories is the time he saved three poor sisters from being sold into slavery or prostitution by their father by providing them with a dowry so that they could be married. That was a common thing back in them days. If the father could not afford a husband, they got sold into slavery or prostitution. If they had to make money back then, it was not like we know it nowadays. They want to talk about things nowadays. It was a lot worse back then. Um, Over many years, Nicholas's popularity spread, and he became known as the protector of children and sailors, which I never knew that. I just knew him as the protector of children. He was the children's saint. His feast day is celebrated on the anniversary of his death, December 6th. This was traditionally considered a lucky day to make a large purchase or to get married. By the Renaissance, Saint Nicholas was the most popular saint in Europe. Even after the Protestant Reformation, when the vent, veneration of saints began to be discouraged, Saint Nicholas maintained a positive retribution, especially in Holland. So, I mean, I find that very interesting, actually. Uh, and this is this next one here is where we start getting more in depth on how Santa Claus and Christmas all came about here. So, first one here is Santa Claus, also Santa Claus. St. Nicholas made his first inroads into popular culture towards the end of the 18th century in December 1773 and again in 1774. A New York newspaper reporter that groups reported that a group of Dutch families had gathered to honor the anniversary of his death. So you remember, like we read earlier, that December 6th is the day they honored his death, which is, well, I mean, it's December 6th. It's getting close to the December 24th holiday. I wonder why. Um, in 1804, John Pentard, oh, wait, I'm sorry, I forgot something. The name of Santa Claus evolved from Nick's Dutch nickname Sinterklaas. So that's how the name Sinterklaas came about, was because that's how the Dutch called it. A shortened form of Saint Nicholas, Dutch for Saint. Sorry, I said that wrong. Saint Nicholas, the Dutch for Saint Nicholas. In 1804, John Pentard, a member of the New York Historical Society, disputed woodcuts of St. Nicholas at the Society's annual meeting. The background of the engraving contains now familiar Santa Claus images, including stockings filled with toys and fruit hanging over the fireplace. So there you go. We got the the toys now, or Odin delivering stuff. Um, Fruit hanging over the fireplace, the mushrooms being dried out over the fireplace. You can see where all this kind of ties in together now. In 1809, Washington Irving helped to popularize the Santa Claus stories when he referred to St. Nicholas as the patron saint of New York in his book, The History of New York. As his performance grew, Santa Claus was described as everything from a rascal with a blue three-cornered hat, red waistcoat, and yellow stockings to a man wearing a broad-brimmed hat and a huge pair of Flemish trunk hoses. So you start seeing, like, I remember some old Santa Claus stuff. In fact, I don't know, I might have some still. I don't know. But I mean, when I was a kid, I remember Santa Claus as we know him, the big old floppy hat and all that. I can't remember what's called. It'll be in here. Um, I remember all that. And then I remember throughout my house seeing the older version that is described here. Now, for me, the older versions I liked a lot better than I did what we know Santa Claus now, what we see in the store and all that. I've always gravitated towards the old image of Santa Claus. So I find that interesting how it came out. Popular Christmas story. So now we're about ready to get into the where we know Christmas now. This is now we're starting to get to the tail end where it's finalized, and this is where the corporation comes in. In 1822, Clement Clark Moore, an exceptional minister, wrote a long Christmas poem for his three daughters entitled "An Account of a Visit from St. Nicholas," more popularly known as "'Twas the Night Before Christmas Went All Through the House." That story. Um, Moore's poem, which he was initially hesitant to publish due to the ferocious or due to the nature of its subject, is largely responsible for our modern image of Santa Claus as the right jolly old elf. Thor, what is your problem, bud? Sorry, guys. Bull is being needy. I'm doing something right now. You don't need attention 24/7, bud. You really don't. But let me finish my deal here, okay? No, nine, nine. Okay. That doesn't mean you either. Sorry, guys. Um, So the bright jolly old elf with the portly figure and a supernatural ability to ascend a chimney with a mere nod of his head. Wow, there is that going down the chimney thing, much like that shaman, how she climbed down the chimney and delivered the mushrooms. I mean, we can see where all this is tying in. Although some of Moore's imaginary or imagery was probably borrowed from other sources, there you go. His poem helped popularize the non-familiar image of Santa Claus, the now familiar image of Santa Claus, who flew from house to house on Christmas Eve in a major sleigh with 8 flying reindeer to leave presents for deserving children. There we go. That's where Odin is tied in again. Sleipnir, the 8-legged horse, Loki's offspring from when they built the wall around Asgard, and Loki transformed himself into a mare to trick the mountain giant horse and causing the mountain giant not to finish the wall. And from this, because Loki got him into that mess, and from this, which wasn't very well talked about, because you got retribution from Loki if you talked about it. Uh, when he returned, he had this 8-legged colt with him that he named Sleipnir and gave to Odin as a gift. And you can see here 8 legs or 8 reindeer, 8 legs on Sleipnir. If you recall earlier when I was talking about Odin flying around on walnut on Sleipnir, the children would leave the carrots and hay in the shoes, and Odin would leave a gift. So you can see where all this ties into that. An account of the visit of from nope, there we go. I'm sorry. Uh, Yeah, that was right. An account of the visit from St. Nicholas created a new and immediately popular American icon. So, I mean, right here we talk about how America transformed Christmas, transformed Santa Claus, transformed all that into what we know now today. Yeah, in 1881, political cartoonist Thomas Nast drew a Moore's poem to create the first likeness that matches our modern image of Santa Claus. His cartoon, which appeared in Harper's Weekly, depicted Santa Claus as a plump, cheerful man with a full white beard, holding a sack laden with toys for lucky children. It is Nast who gave Santa Claus his bright red suit trimmed with white fur. North Pole Workshop, Elves and his wife, Mrs. Claus. So you can see here this time frame that was 1881. Whenever Mrs. Claus and all that was, I mean, all that was not original to Christmas. Um, and you can see that's when it came in 1881. So the concept really is just a few hundred years old. It's not very old at all. So now we're getting into the pagan origins of Christmas. The origins of Christmas are complex and intertwined with various cultural and religious traditions, including some pagan elements. While Christmas is primarily celebrated as a Christian holiday commemorating the birth of Christ, it coincides with the winter solstice and incorporates elements from pre-Christian traditions. So this is where we're going to start how Christianity, or most commonly was the Catholics back then, took pagan worships, integrated into Christian holidays to create what we know now. And and we'll discuss this later why they do it. And it primarily goes down to the best way to convert people from the old gods into Christians and the one God was to integrate their practices into Christianity to make it easier for them. And we'll go over that here and later on too. Um, the winter solstice from the northern hemisphere takes place on the 22nd of December. kind of an interesting date right there. The day when the Earth's axis is tilted furthest away from the sun. It is the shortest day of the year and is meant to mark the beginning of winter in the northern hemisphere, but it is also a time of hope because the days be being the because the days being lengthened as spring is coming. Now, winter solstice was important for a lot of pre-Christians because take what is it, boys? Uh, sorry, guys. Take the Norse for instance. We believe that before Ragnarok happens, there's going to be an endless winter, a winter that never ends. That is the sign that Ragnarok is to come. That is the beginning of Ragnarok. The grand entrance of Ragnarok is that. So the winter solstice is important because we want to celebrate life and hope for life to come back. We want spring, so that way we know, hey, this is not the time of Ragnarok. So this is kind of why I like this here. Ancient civilizations around the world thought that thought this was worthy of great celebration. When the early Christmas linked these winter solstice celebrations to Christmas, it simply made the birth of Jesus that much more optimistic. A lot of people uh, in the modern world may not even know that the winter solstice actually has nothing to do with the scriptures or and religion. That's kind of like what I was talking about there. I mean, it's um, well, like I said, we'll be getting into this year. They may be even more surprised to learn that Christmas celebrations like decorating holly, putting up Christmas trees, and kissing under the mistletoe are rooted in ancient fertility rituals. These are all some symbolic acts to celebrate the fertility of the earth and the approach of the sowing season. And that's what I was talking about earlier when how we're celebrating to bring in spring. Spring is a season of renewance, rebirth, fertility, growth. It is That's when we plant our seeds to harvest for the winter to come. So I mean, it's very important to a lot of pre-Christians and even Christians now who are getting back into it. So now we're going to talk about the pagans of Christmas. What is the word pagan? This is this is why I don't like the word paganism, and that's why I wrote this in here because how I feel about it. I know a lot of people are on that clique of I am a North pagan. Man, pagan is a derogatory term. You're either Norse or you're not. I mean, I don't like it. That's kind of what I'm talking about here. Um, uh, the paganism was brought about by the Christians, and the Christians called anybody that was not Christian pagan. Anybody who believed in the old gods, the old ways, they were called pagan. It's a derogatory term. Derogatory term. Sorry about that. Paganism was originally a word used by the early Christians to refer to the pleiotheistic Romans. So you can see where the first time it comes in was with the Romans, what Christians called Romans. What it essentially means is non-Christian. It could be applied just as well to the Norse people in Scandinavia or ancient Celts in the British Isles. As the Christian missionaries began to roam around the Western Europe and the larger world, they used the term pagan to refer to anyone who did not share their beliefs on religion. That's like what I was talking about a little bit ago there. Their multiple gods were classified within a single category of pagan gods, and that's what I was saying earlier. That's why I don't subscribe to that. I don't take that. I don't like that. All you're doing is taking a derogatory term and saying, "Hey, that's me." Why do that? Just stay true. Stay true. In the first few centuries of Christianity, the Christians wanted to spread their religion around Europe. but they were also quite fascinated by the religions that already existed. They knew that it would be difficult for ordinary people to divorce themselves from everything they had always known completely. This included the celebrations for winter solstice. They had given the people something familiar and known. Given that Jesus was born around the same time, it was easy enough to incorporate existing traditions into celebration of the birth of Christ. Which that there I find interesting. If you actually look and study the Bible when Jesus was born, he was actually born around fall, around late fall, not during the winter time. If you actually go in there and when it talks about the sheep's in the field and stuff like that, if it was wintertime, the sheep would not be in the field. They're bringing them in late fall, prepare for winter. So in all actuality, that's around about the time when Jesus was made. I'm sorry. Born. So the last part of part one of my Christmas deal is here. We're going to talk about the Roman Saturnalia festival, and I actually kind of find this thing interesting. I've read it a long, long time ago, but I had forgot about it. So it's nice whenever I came across this again because I find this whole stuff very fascinating, and the fact how it ties into the corporation version of Christmas, or how it came into the Christian Christmas into the corporate Christmas. And these corporations, I mean, look what they're doing. They're putting stuff out 2 or 3 months ahead of the holiday. It's all about money to them. We need to get away from that and focus on the actual truth and traditions of Christmas. Christmas is many things. It is the birth of Christ, our Lord and Savior. It is celebrating the winter solstice. We need to get back into that mindset and quit letting these corporates tell us what Christmas is. And that's why I'm doing this. I like this stuff. The people of ancient Rome celebrated winter solstice with the festival of Saturnalia, and I hope I'm saying that right. And if I'm not, I'm sorry, guys. It was meant as a way to celebrate and give thanks to the Roman god of agriculture, Saturn. By the time the winter solstice came out, the last planting season had been completed. Thus, the ancient Romans would then happily engage in an entire week of festivities. The Saturnalia festival was usually celebrated between the 17th of December and the 24th of December. There's them dates again. Even though Christmas is not really a celebration of one day, it is called the Christmas season. And I mean, I remember that for a long time too. Um, and festivities started well in advance of the 25th of December. In the Saturnalia festival, the 25th of December was considered the climax and had a special name, Vermilia. So here we talk about now where Christmas Day, 25th of December, becomes what it is. And this stuff's, I like this. During Saturnalia and Vermilia, all social hierarchies were overturned. The people, including the Roman slaves, indulged in widespread merrymaking. The slaves could even take part in public celebrations, and not on the last and not work on the last day of the festival, which is something we still do to this day. I mean, heck, we're modern slaves now to the corporation and to the politicians. Um, and everyone was allowed to wear colorful clothes. And I hope I get this right. The Farragon cap, and that's the hat that we know, worn by the freed Roman slaves, was worn as a symbol of freedom of the season. Many of the modern Christmas traditions originated in the ancient Roman Empire. However, there might be have a darker side to this Saturnalia festival. In an ancient Roman civilization, would be elected as I'm sorry. And an ancient Roman, and I need to turn my screen better. An innocent Roman citizen would be elected as lord of the misrule for a period of 30 days for the festival. This was a temporary uh, king of sorts, I guess you could say, who would persuade all over the wild partying and drunken antics during the celebration. On the last day, this lord of misrule would be sacrificed to Saturn on the altar. This marked the end of anarchy and return of social conventions. There is no conclusive evidence for this, although folklorists like James Fraser and Michael back, back then have theorized about it. Rome, Romans had another festival around the same time, Dies Natalis, Solus Invicti, birth of the invincible sun. This was dedicated to the Iranian sun god Mithra in pre-Zoroastrian Iran. Did I say that right? Zoroastrian Iran. Mithra was the god of the sun, justice, and war. He was heavily associated with the Roman sun god Sol. Emperor Aurelian, I can't speak that stuff, declared that the 25th of December was the birthday of the unconquerable sun and is a festival most likely celebrated by upper class male Romans. In fact, Mithraism was a special and select cult. It is interesting that Christians decided to celebrate the birth of Jesus on this very day, which is also interesting that one of the um, names of Jesus is the Son of Justice. And that is where we're going to end on this part one of the Christmas deal. And man, I love doing this research. I love that because I mean, I've known for several years how Christians had integrated paganism into what we know as our holidays. I mean, most of our Christian holidays has pagan roots in them. Um, I use the word pagan because that's what most of you guys know. For me, it's the old ways, the ancient gods. Um, but part two, we're going to pick up on the Yule, which is Norse and Germanic, and we'll talk more about how it is. But you can, I mean, in this first part here, you can see how Christians had integrated, and once Christians did, your black hats, your corporate people, or your rich people think they deserve more than you do, turned it into a money marketing thing. I mean, look at your Black Friday sales. You're not saving a whole lot of money. They're being caught several times of saying something's marked down when you actually lift it up. It's been marked up or is marked the same. So we need to get away from the money side of Christmas and get back into the roots of what Christmas actually is. For Christians, the birth of Christ, man, that is very, very important. Yes, Christmas may not be the day that Christ was born on, but it's the day that we Christians celebrate it. So celebrate it as the birth of Christ. But don't forget what each thing in here means. The gift givings and all that stuff is not tied to the birth of Christ. It's actually got a pagan root to it. So if you want to continue that, by all means do it. There's nothing wrong with it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please like, subscribe, and share this. Let's get this out there. I love this stuff. That's why my program or my channel is called The Bizarre and the Unknown, because not only am I into cryptids and monsters and mythology and supernatural, paranormal, the aliens. I love all this stuff, but the unknown. I mean, there's a lot of people who don't know, so I'm into every bit of it. So if you guys have got something you want to share, by all means, email me at cryptid and mythological at gmail.com, and I will go over it and I'll do videos on it. So I'm getting set up where I can start doing lives now. So I hope to be able to start doing that soon. Next weekend, I'm probably, because my live didn't work yesterday, I am probably going to redo what I originally supposed to do on the stone structures we find around the world. That is kind of obvious that man didn't carve it and nature dang sure didn't carve it, and what the possibilities of why they look the way they do. Some of the stuff, yeah, I'd say is a good chance that man did it, but you never know. I mean, we find petrified stuff all the time that looks like it did whenever it got petrified. All the aspects of it is, I mean, look at Pompeo. Whenever it was covered in ash, the people literally were encased in stone. So, I mean, is that possibility for all these giants that we're finding all over the world that are stone, and these giant animals that we're finding all over the world and stuff? So it'd be kind of interesting. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Um, like I said before, please hit that like, subscribe, and share. Leave me comments, and bless you guys, and thank you all for what you've done.